It's magic.
Yeah, I'll have to set up some scripts for everybody here.
Yeah. Nick, not so much. Bless your heart. I would not have done it any better. Welcome to 2022 live chat number 83. We're excited to be here yet another year.
Seems like made like 82.5 or so.
Yeah, no, last week was a full session on Instagram with very compromised audio, which several helpful people pointed out to us on YouTube. But hey, the fact that there was anything to show for it last week is a small miracle. So, I'm Javad Shadzi, CEO of 034 Motorsport, and this is Nate Stewart, head of engineering, and we are here to answer all your questions about 034 Motorsport, products and services, automotive questions in general. We're well versed in a broad number of topics, and so feel free to ask about anything else as well. We take a no BS approach to how we respond to questions. We like to cut to the chase, cut to the truth of any issue that we're discussing, and we talk very openly here. So this is a great way to connect with what's going on.
It's a safe space for everybody.
Well, not everybody.
Everybody that's asking the question, you're gonna get an honest answer. We're not gonna judge you too.
It's not very safe for several tuners, but
the other vendors.
All right, so yeah, go ahead and enter your questions in whatever format you're watching on.
We've got Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook up for you right now.
We will be happy to respond. Let's see. Start with: is there a difference on 3.0T E40 test pipe file versus factory cat file?
Yep. One is for test pipes, one is for the factory cat. So the test pipe file is, again, our racing use setup. It's there for those that are running without a factory cat, so it doesn't have things like the catalyst heating enabled, or the some of the testing you obviously aren't going to be able to do. So we have to list the cat as not installed, which it does show up as on any of the monitors. It'll show that it's not there. But other than that, the base tune's really pretty much the same. The factory cats are really not a bad cat. They flow a ton. You can make
most factory cats these days.
Yeah, I mean,
it was
on the 3 liter in particular. There's very, very little difference power wise between running with the stock cat versus the test pipe. So it's just it's unfortunately a longevity thing on this. That's the only reason.
Yeah, if you're racing, track driving, the cats just get in the way and they melt. And it's a problematic.
Yeah, it's a durability issue more than a performance.
But on the street, if it was me, I would, legally,
it is
you want to run the cats, but there's really no loss of power, and you're going to run cleaner. You can feel better about not polluting the air as much.
The vehicles usually sound a lot better too with the factory cat.
They sound good.
It's tough to tame that motor and keep it from being a raspy, not necessarily the most pleasant sounding engine.
But there's a lot of sootiness that you eliminate that gets all over the back of your car. And then for other people driving behind you, test pipe cars are very noxious to be behind. So I think if you're looking for a more responsible, refined, legal experience, then stick with the factory cats. You may have to replace them every few years because they're not a lifetime Cali converter.
It's interesting too these days because there's such a market for recycling cats. Honestly, you can honestly get most of your money back. Honestly, if you find a good used set of cats, you can put those in. If you have a degraded set, you can recycle the degraded set, provided they still have cores left in them and you've blown them out entirely.
They may not.
But yeah, usually the cats will become compromised. It'll be just some reduction. In flow, the element's still there. It'll melt. It'll break up a little bit, kind of turn sideways, but it's still something you can recycle.
Cats are the price you pay for the 3.0T supercharged motor. There's no turbocharger insulating, so that there's literally a flame front that comes out of the combustion chamber, past the exhaust valve, out the exhaust port, down the header, and hits the cat.
Yeah, it's like an 8-inch path maybe from the exhaust valve to the catalyst for the shortest cylinder.
Where turbos actually convert a lot of the heat into energy and
Yep.
absorb, a lot of it.
Yeah,
So
pre and post turbo EGTs for similar power levels to what we're doing with the B8
yeah,
are
much
way less.
100 degrees difference. So the 3.0T is like a flamethrower compared to the average turbo motor. But if you have to spend, I don't know, $1,500, $2,000 every 2-3 years for a 500 plus, horsepower daily driver street car that runs tens,
It's the right way to do it.
That's cheap. That's very cheap. You'd have to spend, well into the six figures for most factory cars to be able to do something like that.
Yep.
So yeah, there's definitely a difference, and just keep in mind if we ever have two separate files, there's a difference. We don't just support extra files for the reason.
No, and that's literally probably 1,000 some files, I think, additional that we do support because we do offer with
Yeah. So I mean, if it doesn't serve a purpose, we don't create a new file for it, and even then, it has to really serve a purpose.
Yep.
Any recommendations for mods on an 8V Audi A3 Quattro?
Oh yeah.
Definitely,
Easy stuff.
most people, their first mod is a tune. That's kind of a no-brainer. These cars from the factory handle well. They have good brake systems. They can easily, handle stage 1 power and still be more than safe to drive. That didn't used to be the case. 15, 20 years ago, if you added 60 horsepower to 110 horsepower Jetta, frankly, it was frightening, dangerous. And they had like 8-inch rufflers that didn't handle it. But no, these cars are great. So I would start with that. Dynamic Plus springs, sway bars will transform the way the car drives and handles. Our inserts will really tighten up the driving experience. ZTF wheels would be a great option, but you may not want to drop, $2,500 on forged wheels. If you do, great. We have the best option around. But wheels and tires typically are a great upgrade. They really make the car look good. And, tires are literally where the rubber meets the road. So if you want to increase your cornering grip, the tire is the best place to do that. You can put the world's best suspension on a car with cheap tires, and you're not going to necessarily produce a lot more cornering grip than if you just put really sticky tires. So those are the common places. You could do an intake, which will increase power and also increase this induction sound. So I would recommend just going on our website and loading in your application and seeing what we have to offer. If you're more concerned about handling, then start there. If power is really what you're seeking, start with a flash, a tune.
Yep.
You can eventually upgrade the intercooler, and you can actually make pretty decent power. There are turbo upgrade options, IS38 type options. Well, I didn't say KO4.
You're coming along.
It's a new year.
Yeah, 2022 is starting off.
So yeah, let us know if you have any more specific questions. Feel free to email contact at or hit us up on our customer group. You can pose the same question there, and other customers who are actually extremely knowledgeable will also be able to.
We've got a great group of pretty hardcore enthusiasts in here.
What meth kit do you guys recommend for B8.5 S4? I mean, I don't think we have a specific
We
kit
don't have
for
like a go-to for that. I tested a bunch of stuff on those cars.
I mean, frankly, we don't really necessarily recommend meth.
Yeah, it's we.
If you have
It's
if
one
you
of
can
those
do
things
85, you don't need it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we will support, but we don't typically recommend it because it's outside of the ECU's control. It's a whole secondary system that has, in most cases, is very prone to failure or unstable flow rates and that kind of thing. So it's a really tough thing to kind of really lean on and depend on from a tuning standpoint. So we'll basically the most that we'll typically do for like a meth file would be just a slight change in targeted air fuel because the meth will cause it to run quite a lot richer.
Yeah.
Because
it cools the air temperature.
Well, that and it's a fuel. The methanol
And
it's a fueling additive. You're putting more medium into the chamber that's not measured by the ECU. But yeah, as far as a kit, there's a lot out there. I don't have I wouldn't go cheap. If you really want to do it, I would do it right. Get something that has like level sensors, flow meters, fail safes,
Right.
some sort of indication so it's actually working, and something that's variable rate. So
Yeah,
increase
there's some
boost.
some super
There's
dumb simple
there's
stuff.
some really literally just a switch on a bilge pump basically
Like
that
a bilge pump for like farming irrigation.
yeah. So it's one of those things. It's like this is a critical, if you're putting it in, it's going to be a critical fueling part to your motor. You don't want the thing just sitting there faulting and turning on the whole time and filling your motor full of meth either. So
No.
yeah, don't cheap out on that kind of stuff. But I don't have a go-to to go.
And we're talking water meth, right?
Water meth, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Some guys run 100% meth, but yeah,
that's
it's water meth.
you're injecting a very explosive device into your intake system.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to blow the whole top of your motor off, it's a good way to do it.
Sure. But yeah, AEM, Aquamist, there's
AEM ones are. I mean, generally I like AEM products.
AEM ones are good. It's a polished product. It's on the simpler end of the spectrum for meth kits. Aquamist would be getting more
Aquamist,
more advanced in some of their features.
Aquamist has been around forever.
And there's others out there now as well. But no, nothing. We don't have a standard go-to because we generally don't use it much here at all.
Someone's follow-up. Do you recommend Progressive?
Yeah, of course. Yep. Yeah, you don't want something that's just going to be a simple on-off. You want something that's going to change with the problem. And here's the problem. The other problem with meth kits, though, Progressive almost always means simply it's just boost linked. So if you're making 20 pounds of boost at 5,000 RPM, you're going to get the same amount of water meth injected as you are at 7,000 RPM, but you're moving a lot more air at 7,000 RPM. So this is where we keep saying is it's kind of it's a tough thing to tune for and account for because they're very, very simple systems compared to what the OEM or what the ECU is doing from a fueling and airflow strategy.
I mean, it's just not how your engine works.
Yeah.
And so if you just a lot of these simple kits, there's a boost switch and it turns on and it injects. And so the best case scenario is you're injecting too much at low RPMs, and then you get to some point where it's perfect, and then all of a sudden it's not enough.
Yeah, that's the ideal meth setup, or meth injection setup is you're too yeah, it's exactly right. You've got too much down low, just right in maybe your peak horsepower point, and then it starts being not enough up top.
Yeah. So, I mean, imagine you're at the club and you're dancing and the beat's building, and you start pumping too fast before the beat drops.
Before the drop.
And this is the same kind of issue that arises in the engine. Will there be a different tune to incorporate the Super Duper and ported charger?
They're already up on the server. We don't do we don't do different files for the ported superchargers. We have not ever found a need. I mean, we're talking very minimal flow differences compared to the overall flow volume of the charger. Air density changes are going to account for way more air mass and getting into the motor than some porting. So no, we don't do a separate ported charger file. We never have.
And there's quite a bit of flexibility in the factory ECU system that can accommodate increases in
airflow. I mean it's kind of the factory ECU is accounting for that. It's reading air. It's reading your manifold pressure or your pressure at the cylinder port, which is going to increase if you're getting more air into the charger. Air temps are going to be affected by the efficiency of the charger. So all that's already basically being accounted for the most part.
Any ETAs on R2.1?
This would be B9, the update coming for the stage 1 and 2 B9 stuff. Yes, I was talking with the guys this week or yesterday about it quite a bit. We're hoping, end of week, next week. I don't want to put too much. We need to test it, flush it out some more. And this is just mostly just some small tweaks, some cooling fans considerations that people have been running into. Some altitude. Tweaks, high altitude file tweaks. There's a list of little things that we're knocking out with this release, but hopefully soon.
Yeah. Yeah, hang tight. It's coming.
Yep.
Related to that, someone says, on my stage 2 AL552 B9 S4 tune, I do not experience the altered shift points. The car still shifts at 6,500 in sport. ESC off, dynamic mode. I am running 91. Is this correct? Well, I only get the lower shift points on E85.
Lower shift points are only on E85. That's correct.
Yeah.
E85, we've got just the way that the power band is in that. There's a lot more torque down the middle.
Yeah.
And it's.
And we discussed this in the past few weeks is due to the octane increase of E85. More boost can be run at the torque peak, which is the place in the motor that is most prone to detonation. So if you think about 91, torque actually has to be brought down in the 91 region at the torque peak, because that's where 91 will detonate, because 91 is much lower octane. So the power builds much more progressively on 91, where there's an advantage to continue to rev, because you are actually making more power at 6,500 than you were at 4,000. But on the E85, you can produce so much torque at the torque peak that it makes sense to shift back to that point and get back into that meet sooner.
Yeah, it's basically like, essentially two different motors you're dealing with here. You've got
Completely
You've got a
different.
very different shape to the power band, and you really want to, your shift points really need to optimize basically that area under the curve and maximize how much of that power you can use. So that's why
I think so many American customers are just running E85 that it almost sounds like E85 is the normal thing.
Yeah.
But really, 91 is much more accessible to everyone in the world, and E85 is an American thing, and even within America, there's regions where it's much more available than others. So if you have not done E85, I strongly recommend doing it.
If you have access to it, you want to do it.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother. It's like the tune again for your setup.
Yeah, I mean, pick a nice Saturday where you have nothing going on. Take a nice shower in the morning, do some stretches, load in the 85 file, and go enjoy your day. Have you confirmed fitments for the Super Duper charger for the 3.0T on the B8.5 SQ5? Yes.
Yeah, it fits those.
It fits. We are developing a hose to make it a drop-in, and this hose will work with our X34 or S34 intake. So yes. Someone's asking, I want to know when we are getting flex fuel for B8 S4, and I'm not talking about E85. I'm talking about E10 and E45. I mean, we talk about this. We don't have a date for doing that yet. We are prioritizing it with all the other tuning and engineering opportunities available. Given the fact that currently you can put E40 in and run very fast, it's not a top priority.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's a convenience thing at this point. And
It would
I
definitely
understand
be-
we are going to be doing it and we want to implement it. It's not really holding back anything, performance wise or
No. But, it's not at the top of the list either. And so unfortunately, we can't promise on any timelines.
Right.
Like, for example, developing stage 3 B9 S4 tuning is a higher priority.
And we've got some other B8 stuff that is higher priority as well.
Yeah, and we are still doing B8 developments, which again, it creates new opportunities that aren't currently available for B8 owners.
Yep.
The inconvenience of mixing E40 is, you get it, but it's a solution that's available. In other cases, there aren't solutions. So apologize if that's really important to you.
Yeah, no, we understand. We get it. We want to be able to just pull up to a pump and put, whatever in as well. But at this time, it's not top of the list.
Yeah. What does LFB mean? It means left foot brake.
Left foot braking. So if you see this on the file on your portal, it's left foot brake.
And what's the purpose on a supercharged engine if I have instant boost?
Yeah, it's there for some. It's for track driving. It's not for boost building or rural racing or anything like that. It's for changing the attitude of the vehicle. Usually on corner entry, where you may have you're still on the throttle, but you need to blend in the brake while you're on the throttle as well, and kind of manipulate the way the vehicle's biting in the corner. And that's not something that 99.9% of the people out there are ever going to need or use. But it was requested by some of the hardcore track guys and or autocrossers, so that's why some of the files do have it.
It's definitely a driving technique that you can learn. Again, it's not necessarily the fastest way around the track. It could be.
It really depends on your driving style, the vehicle setup.
If you want to see it done really well, go look at some of these old videos of Walter Rural or Hans Stuck, racing an Audi.
Yeah, their left foot is on
Quattros.
all the pedals. It's
They're on the brake, they're on the clutch, and they're on the throttle, and most of the time the throttle is just pinned, and they're going back and forth between the brake pedal and the clutch
With
and shifting. And so they're not even lifting off the throttle to shift, which is another feature of ECU tuning. In turbocharging, it can be very beneficial in like roll racing type situations where you could spool the turbo up.
Yeah.
Granted, the supercharger doesn't need to spool, but you can eliminate, probably a third of a second using left foot braking to accelerate in roll racing, because the time it takes you to push the pedal to the floor, and there is a slight lag in response between, you opening the throttle and air going in the engine and the power being produced. So you could eliminate that small amount of lag. On a turbo motor, it's much more substantial.
But you're making more heat too with supercharger for a lot of
Yeah,
heat. So it's one of those things. Yeah, roll racing, I don't see it being a big issue on the B8 at all. It was just for some of the hardcore track ones.
But yeah, if you want to learn more about left foot braking, just Google it. Like I said, it's very popular in rally racing, and a lot of track drivers do use it as well.
Yep.
Going back to R2.1, will it address the cold weather E85 misfires at the top of the rev limit?
Yes, that is part of what I was mentioning with some of the 85 tweaks. Yep, that's just yep.
So the ECU will lower boost and essentially lower the fuel demand.
Right. We're keeping the air density or the air mass entering the engine the same. So the power is going to be identical as it is, in warmer weather too. So.
Yeah. But because we're lowering the boost, there'll be less air.
Well, right now less.
Fuel.
Yeah, right now we're on the a little more aggressive side. We're trying to get more air into the motor in the colder temps.
Yeah.
And some guys are just finding that their fuel systems it's right at the edge of what their fuel systems can do.
Yeah.
So we're going to be bringing that back down. So it's the same amount of air mass getting into the motor regardless of temperature. So your power is going to be the same across the board.
If you want to address it, if it's bothering you, it's really not a safety issue currently, but if it's bothering you, then you could mix down your E85 contents to something closer to like E65.
E65, yep.
If you have a full E85 in there, it's gonna make it worse.
Yeah, we had a guy at like E90 something at some point. He's like, "Hey, my car's having a hard time, at full load." It's like, well, you got a lot of ethanol in there, so it's just more demand on the fuel system. So, and that's what we're balancing is that the ability for the pumps to keep up, the injectors to keep up with the air that's getting into the motor.
If I was to buy your 190 dual pulley and the Super Duper kit, would there be a different tune needed as I live in the UK and our fuel has higher octane?
No, we offer, so all of our octane on our server is rated in US octane numbers, so that's something to keep in mind. But other than that, no, we've got, in the US knock index, 91, 93, 100, 104, and E40 for all of our 3-liter files.
And that converts directly across to your...
So it'll be like 95, 98, 103, and then 116 or whatever it is in your side of the pond.
But you're on a different rating system, but your fuel isn't actually very different from an octane, actual octane standpoint. It's just the difference between metric and imperial or something like that. But yes, we have a lot of B8 S4 tunes in the UK, very popular.
Yep.
Awesome is a dealer, our main dealer there, and I know we have I don't know, hundreds at least of UK cars running. So you'll love the tune, and you can beat up on all those little hot hatches and 1-liter diesel motors everywhere. Well, the High Flow Cat set readiness for the B9 S4 tune, asking because there's no visual inspection.
Nope, we don't. We specifically don't. We will mark it as not installed, but we're not going to force readiness on anything.
Yeah, forcing readiness is not something we want to get into.
Nope.
Not even for racing.
No, there's no reason to. I mean,
and for racing, we just say it's not.
It's not installed, and the tests get turned off, so if you have a check engine light, it probably means something. That's why we do that. But as far as readiness stuff, we don't force that on.
Rolling anti-lag for the B9 3.0T. Is it necessary on my hilariously small stock turbo, or will we do it for the stage 3 options?
Yeah, I mean once we polish it up and roll and develop it, it'll probably be available across.
Once we roll it out.
Once we roll it out, yep. But yeah, I agree. It's going to be a very minimal use on the stock turbo.
There is some lag.
There's some.
There's a little bit. Yep. So you could probably knock a half a second or more.
Yep.
even with that. But it's going to be less than on the bigger turbos, and it also depends where in the power band you are. If you stab the stock turbo, if you stab the throttle at
if you're like
5,500 RPM, it's already.
yeah, you're gonna have very little difference between brake boosting and.
But if you want to do that at 3,000 RPM, then no, and then on stage 3, certainly at 3,000 RPM, probably nothing will happen. So.
Yep.
All right, so people are asking about this beautiful piece of aluminum here, and this is our production DAZA 4-inch inlet.
Yeah, it's not for the B9. A couple of guys were asking.
No, we have B9 stuff coming, which will be not quite this beefy, but very.
It's
beefy.
very similar, honestly.
It'll be super duperized. Yeah, it's actually similar.
The shape is actually really close.
This is just a little straighter. But this is our cast aluminum turbo inlet. We're getting ready to release this soon. Do we have a date at ETA? Yeah, it's going to be in the next month or so. The price will be ridiculously good.
Yep.
We are planning on disrupting the market on price. And the reason we can do that is parts like this have a huge upfront tooling cost to create the molds. But once you create the mold, the per part is really, really cheap. And so you can either charge a lot of money and try to pay off the tooling that way, selling less units at more profit, or you can sell lots of parts at less profit and pay it off that way. So that's the strategy we're using on this one since we're late to the party.
Yep.
This is as good a quality or better than anything else on the market. We've baselined this against several other of the popular options, and they match or outflow it. And we also offer these adapters. So the part comes with, basically, you can't just bolt this up to the turbo as is because
you could, but you don't want to.
You wouldn't want to, and there's no sealing provision.
Yeah.
So we offer these adapter inserts that go in, and they snap into place.
Yep.
And we offer currently one for stock size turbo.
Yeah, it's this guy.
And this is stock size, and it even has the receiver ring. And then this is a 62.8 millimeter version for the popular.
I think that's the
tile.
I
fit like
can't remember which one that's.
some of the
TT.
the TT 700. So that's what this fits, and it bolts right up, and it's a nice smooth transition right into the turbo inlet. So, and then these all made up to our 4-inch DAZA intakes, and all the intakes on the market have more or less the same, a very similar position. There's only so many places you can put the inlet here.
Right. Yeah. There's a firewall here. And
Yeah.
cylinder head there. It's
Like AC compressor lines and all kinds of stuff. So I believe this will work just fine with other intakes on the market like IE and.
yeah. We haven't tested
Yeah.
specifically because we have our own intake, but yeah, everything's pretty close.
I think we actually have.
Have we?
Yeah, we had an IE intake here for a while, and they were on a customer car, and we threw it in just to see how it fit up. So
People are asking how close.
we will
All
post.
those numbers will be posted. Yep.
It's a decent power increase once installed, especially with our 4-inch intake. It's substantial, but we will. So we have a Superflow, the biggest Superflow flow bench they make here, and so we have flow numbers for this, and we will also post several competitor. We will flow them right next to this one using the same exact methodology, and we will post all those. We just won't call out which competitors they are.
And we flowed this with and without our full intake tract
Yeah.
in a number of combinations. And then on the dyno, I think this was good for. I'm off the top of my head here. It's been a while since I tested. I want to say it was like 20 some horsepower.
Yeah, it's
Not
a
a stock turbo.
It's a good at least 10 to 15 plus.
Yeah, the stock inlet on this wheeler is pretty tragic.
I mean, it's fine for.
It's great for stock horsepower,
Yeah.
but as you ramp things up, you get a full like stage 2 E85 car.
Yeah.
It becomes a restriction, and this was like legit, 20 some horsepower.
Yeah.
And we ended up had to alter calibrations and whatnot and make sure our calibrations worked along with this and the stock inlet because it did change the pressure ratio of the turbo enough.
And we're proud of we kept the factory style breather provision, the factory thing, fitting bolts right up. Some of the ones we've seen on the aftermarket have hoses that come off this, so we were able to. It's not easy to do this casting. it adds quite a bit of complexity. But it's very factory OEM, and it's nice and smooth on the inside. You could certainly port it more and polish it if you wanted to. Not going to really change anything. But it's a nice, smooth, precision cast part. And again, it'll be the best price on the market. So I think some other companies will be probably lowering their prices as well. Be interesting to see what APR says. But yeah. Okay, so that's that. And yeah, it's we're waiting for the shipment to show up from our foundry. Should be here in the next couple weeks. I believe about a month is accurate. Well, S4 B9 with TTE 710 or pure turbo 750 achieves 600 just on regular pump gas.
We'll have to qualify what regular pump gas is.
Let's say 91.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, that's just a limitation of the octane itself, and we're still dealing with 3 liters of engine, so it's not a huge motor.
And we're talking 600 crank. I mean, we might not get too far from that.
Yeah, we may not be, but
not 600 wheel.
Yeah.
But it'll produce the most power it can on that octane. We'll guarantee you that. That's our commitment is always to get the most out of the fuel. The fuel is really the limitation, and we'll do the best we can with it. And if you want more power than that, you're gonna have to use a different fuel. We don't change the laws of physics.
Yeah, we're not holding back on any other things just to sell a different file or anything. We'll give you as much as we have tested to be safe and reliable and repeatable on a given octane.
Yeah, and other tuners actually do that. They kind of
they'll sandbag some files to get to push more sales to a different stage 2 or upsell an octane.
Yeah, but if you notice, most of our stage 1s produce right near stage 2 power levels, and that's because we are pushing everything and not necessarily pushing, we're optimizing it right to that point.
Yeah, and we're not trying to sell stage 2 or test pipe files. We're trying to sell the best, most optimized file for each configuration. So, there's not, like Jawad said earlier at the beginning of this, the stock catalysts are really good these days. So there's not a huge amount of power gain in switching to high flow cat these days like there used to be.
I'm wondering if porting the blower and throttle body gains are worth it. I mean, that's up to you. We're very transparent about what the throttle body gains. It's not a lot.
No.
But if you want another 10 horsepower, that's on the 3.02, you're into the margins. Mm-hmm. You're in full diminishing returns territory. So, the Super Duper kit will give you about 10 horsepower at redline, which is more than not.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
it's
porting,
not a ton, but
porting could be, it's hard to say.
A couple more on that.
It could be another 5, 10, 15, 20, depending on how well it's done and whatever. But you combine those two things, and you could be up another 20, 25 horsepower. It's going to cost you a couple grand to get that. Certainly, the first couple grand you spent got you a lot more than that. But that's what diminishing returns is all about. So yeah, it's up to you. But if you think you want that extra bit of acceleration up top, then it's worth it. And you need to do the numbers on that. Okay, there's a comment. I don't want to stir the pot, but they're just saying, not trying to compare, but your stuff seems to be more precise than X competitor. And thank you. We like to think so. We try really hard to be very precise and accurate and high quality. And we try to be really transparent about what we do and why we do it. Really trying to hide anything from anybody or trick anyone into buying our products. That's why we're here, live on the air, answering any questions you guys ask. Cool. I appreciate that you feel that way. That means a lot to us. ALC and
Advanced
launch control for DAZA.
Yep,
it's coming.
It's coming. I mean, I've got it working on our stuff here.
We have Pops and Bangs videos.
We do. It makes all the noise. So yep, it'll be rolling out in the not too distant future. We're just waiting on it. I just got to polish up some of the features.
Thank you for making my shifts so smooth and fast. I can't wait to remove the cats and go ALC file.
You can go ALC without removing cats. All of our advanced launch stuff. I'm assuming this is a B8, like a SQ5 or A6. something or other.
Yeah.
Advanced launch doesn't mean you have to remove the cats. Advanced launch means that you get adjustable launch blades and you get some extra cooling features and things. So we have full stock catalyst, stock everything, advanced launch files. Those files will take into account and check to see if it is a test pipe file or a stock catalyst file, and we'll adjust its strategy accordingly. But you're going to get all the same benefits, the same launches, the same everything with that file, whether you've got test pipes now or not. So. No, we're not limiting anything. There's no reason we're not trying to upsell a stage 2 or a test pipe or anything. We're giving you all the features we can.
At first I thought this said, "Thank you for making my shits so smooth and fast."
It may do that as well.
People have actually shit themselves running our tuning, and maybe we should expand into like the probiotics market.
Yes, I was gonna say adult diaper, just to deal with the cause or the result.
Yeah. Psyllium husk tablet fiber not working for you? Try 034 Motorsport tuning. Your shits will be smooth and fast.
Jump the shark.
Is a TCU tune necessary for the B9 platform? Well, yes.
Yeah, we've talked about this. In our opinion, yes, 100%.
Any of our tuning options that you purchase from us will include a TCU file. So if you do stage 1, if you do stage 1 ECU, we provide a stage 1 TCU included in the price.
Yeah.
Which some people are referring to as a patch, which just simply means that the ECU and TCU communicate with each other, how much torque the engine produces. The TCU has a say in it because it's controlling the power delivery to the wheels and tires. And so we augment and modify the TCU calibration in addition to the ECU calibration. And those two controllers work in tandem to determine how much power is produced at any given microsecond.
Right.
Now, we offer a stage 2 TCU file, which takes it a step further and gives you a whole new performance around shifting. So faster shifts, more power delivered during shifts for faster acceleration through the shift, higher red line.
Yep.
What else is in there?
I want to say different kickdown stuff.
Augmented shift points.
It's a transmission, right? So its job is to shift or hold a gear. So it's going to be, a lot of it is in the shift speed increases, and just exactly what Javad said is it's all about getting the power down as quickly and precisely as we can. And I think it's a much smoother shifting car with the stage 2 calibration on it than even stock.
And in dynamic mode, the car shifts much more abruptly. You feel it.
It's quick.
If you're looking for like that Rolls-Royce driving experience, you're not going to get it in dynamic mode. In comfort mode, it's still smooth, but the second you get into a car with our stage 2 in dynamic mode, you will notice the urgency of the shifts. And I think it feels like a sports car should. It's weird when you're like in an SQ5 and you're feeling it, but I mean, if you were in like a mid-engine supercar and you felt shifts like that, it would feel perfectly appropriate.
It's a performance-oriented calibration.
Let's see. I've not yet installed the ALC on my SQ5. I just installed the first recent release. I launched and all 4 tires broke loose for the first time. I have new extreme contact DWS. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, that'd be a B8 SQ5. So no, the launches are pretty robust on the AL551 file.
Yeah. So enjoy. You can obviously modify your launch points to optimize your traction.
Yeah. If the advanced launch is available for your setup, go ahead and install it. You can always turn it off, turn it on. It's all controlled in the cruise control stock, so you'll have everything you have now and more.
Would you consider making an oil cooler for the S4 B8? I don't think that's something we're currently considering. And
I think that's on our roadmap.
I don't know. I think in general, oil coolers are for these newer Audi and Volkswagen applications are. I wouldn't say they're snake oil, but I think they're a little misguided in some of the need that's expressed.
For heavy track use, maybe, but it's
in hot weather, and then I think here's the issue: like as long as your coolant temps are maintained and in target, you do not necessarily need an cooler because there's heat that transfers between both systems.
Yeah, it depends on the setup and how much heat that exchanger can shed. But yeah, in general, most of these newer platforms are pretty good.
Well, and then I see a lot of people freaking out like temps are like 350 degrees, and it's like that's totally fine for modern synthetic oil. You don't need an oil cooler for that. But there's a lot of tuners out there that are kind of taking advantage of some of the misperceptions of like, I think if you go back to the 70s and 80s where, people had normal oil, non-synthetic oil, what is that even called?
Just dyno. I don't know. What
I know, but that's not the actual name.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or is it organic oil?
I don't know.
Synthetic and organic.
There's never a thing. It just was oil.
If you just have normal non-synthetic oil, then yes, that stuff breaks down at much lower temperatures. But modern oils hold up at those higher temperatures.
And you should be running a good, if you're on track and you're seeing those temps, you should be running a good oil.
Absolutely.
Not just like Jiffy Lube synthetic.
Well, but factory oil is very good.
No, factory. Yeah, that's usually Motul or
Factory spec.
It's a very high spec oil for sure. But yeah, not like a fast lube, quickie change kind of oil. You shouldn't be tracking your car on any of that.
So I mean, I don't know if you're seeing like 450 or 500 degree oil temps.
If you're up in the couple hundred C range, you're going to be in trouble.
Or if your oil temps are so high that it's causing your cooling system to overheat.
Yeah, there is. Some platforms will derate power based on oil temperature, so that's something to consider too. The B8 on track, I don't know if I've seen any that have. Those I think do an okay job. So yeah, I don't think we have any reason for that on the B8.
There was a time and era where cars did not have oil coolers
At all. Yeah, no, it's just literally based on the water jacketing and the block.
People forget, like all these cars come with oil coolers. There is active cooling and management of oil temp in these newer cars. Now, if you go back to, I'm talking back into like the 90s, but if you go back into the 80s, like an Audi 5000 turbo came with an oil cooler, but an Audi A3 Quattro or Audi 4000 Quattro did not have an oil cooler. A Mark II Volkswagen Jetta 1.8 did not have an oil cooler. The oil was just in the oil pan, and there was some heat that would shed. And as long as you kept about 110 horsepower, you never needed it. And oil temps would go up and down, and they would do whatever they did. But so then going back to my history, I was at this company, New Dimensions, and we developed a turbo kit. So we took power from 90 horsepower to 160. We almost doubled it. And that needed an oil cooler.
Yep.
And so we added a little oil cooler this big, like a Mocal. I think it was like an 8 or 11 oil cooler. And that's all it needed, But these new cars have active, cooling. So the ECU doesn't necessarily control oil temps, but the oil temps are connected to coolant temps. The coolant, the heat can transfer between the two systems. So it's a lot less of an issue than I think a lot of tuners make it, and a lot of
Yeah, it's not one of those like necessity must-have mods. I mean, if you have a reason for it, you're on track, you're hitting conditions that are you want to maintain a more stable temperature under some extreme conditions, sure. But yeah, it's not something we look to first on these.
Well, that's an interesting question. Thinking back on your history, are there any products you can talk about that were in development but abandoned for interesting reasons?
The only thing that came to mind for me was some of our ambitious turbo kits for some of the markets. We did a lot of development on like O7K and VR6.
Like the O7K Rabbit and Jetta with the 5-cylinder 150 or 170 horsepower motor. We did develop a really nice turbo kit for that application. Actually, when I started 034 Motorsport,
Oh God, I forgot about that.
one of the first things I did was I bought the brand new 2005 Jetta with a 5-cylinder in it, and I thought this is perfect. I have a history with 5-cylinders. VAG is bringing back the 5-cylinder, and so in 2005 it was my goal to develop a turbo kit. We didn't actually get to it until
It took a while till what?
2011 or something like that.
12, yeah.
And so we did a really nice lost wax cast manifold.
We had
rapid prints and
fully developed cast manifold, V-banded,
a beautiful turbo kit.
stainless manifold.
And we ended up
We did
selling.
a full silicon for it. We did intercoolers, intake, all the calibrations.
And we did like one small production run, and we ended up selling about 10 kits, kind of undercover, like to people who had contacted us about it.
Yep.
But it was going to be like a $7,000 or $8,000 kit. I mean, this was going to be like a full 600, 800 wheel horsepower kit.
It was. I mean, those motors took it too. I mean, we were doing 400 some wheel with 12 pounds of boost or something, and pretty mild calibration. They were.
But what killed it is
power.
I went on Vortex one night, and is Franken Turbo still around?
Yes, very around.
Well, Franken Turbo, the guy, went on Vortex and was like, in some of the Rabbit groups, was like, hey, we're going to make a bolt-on turbo for the 07K, it's going to be like $2,500. And everybody was just like, what? 25? Can you do it for like 600? And like I just read all these posts where people were just like not willing to spend more than $1,000 on a turbo kit.
We overshot the market on
and
that.
I think I talked to Nate about that, and it's like we need to fucking pull out of this shit right now and work on something productive. And our resultant product line, which has brought us to today, is there's just not a lot of money in turbo kits for a company like us. They're a pain in the ass. They blow up motors. The turbos fail because they're not installed correctly. It's
a really complicated, just product to manage.
So, anyways, that's one of them. The company actually started as 034 EFI. We released the first standalone engine management specifically for the 5-cylinder, targeted for the 5-cylinder Audi engine. Yep. And that's actually was the bulk of our sales, was that ECU and product supporting it up through about 2010. And so Nate and I, with one of our engineers, were actually gearing up to do a whole new revision of that ECU.
Yep, we were drawing up plans for full, drive-by-wire plug-inable, full conversions and
basically like what you see now, like that AEM has done or someone like that.
Yeah, I'd say more along the lines of like the Cybex these days.
Yeah,
that we were gearing up to do basically that. So, and
it was kind of a pivotal point in our history where it was like, this was probably like 2010, 2011 range as well, where all cars were drive-by-wire now. Factory ECUs were incredibly powerful, much better than even ME7, B5 era ECUs. And we're looking at, these cars and like it's going to be really hard to do a Cybex type product, And Cybex has achieved a certain amount of success, but it's still not ideal.
And simultaneously, I mean, we were ramping up our factory ECU calibration efforts and finding out, hey, we can just do everything we need to with this, really good ECU computer that everyone already purchased in the vehicle. So, you can kind of the sky's the limit on these stock ECUs if you know how to get around in there well enough.
So we ended up pulling the plug on that project, and then we ended up pulling the plug on that product, 034 EFI. And I think we stopped selling it in around 2012, 2013. And then a year later, we stopped supporting it. So customers that contacted us who had questions about it, we basically made a pretty public announcement that in 6 months we're no longer supporting this. So if you need any help with this stuff,
I think we get a full year notice when we stopped selling it. We're like, hey guys, we got a year left to support, and
then after that there was another company who that when I started he was marketing the same ECU for like American V8 stuff, and so he's still out there years later, supporting it. So we never abandoned anyone, but it was a big deal because we went from all of our revenue was 034 EFI, and we had to taper that off and bring on basically the product line that you see now, which is world-class, high-quality bolt-on tuning products.
Yep.
And ECU calibrations, which was a daunting, 6-7 years ago was a daunting idea for us. Like, that we would be competing with APR and companies like that. It seemed like a million years away, and here we are.
Yep.
I believe one of the best, most respected tuners in the market currently. Yeah. And then I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Somebody was just asking about the Hello Flush kit. If we've ever sold any of those.
Yeah, you want to buy one? It's I think it's $800.
I think it's the SQ5. It's white. Just picked it up. Be perfect for.
Perfect. We got white. We have white vinyl.
We can do
in
white.
stock.
We could do white. Yeah.
We could ship that by 2 p.m.
Yeah, I think we might have a lot of blue in stock, so we'll just
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might not dry before it gets in the box. That's what we get.
most of it will be white. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other weird product or.
We had one salesman who was trying to sell gun accessories.
Oh, that was
to
fun,
other
dude! It was a Wild West.
Which is
wild. Yeah, we had a dealer in what.
Someone like in Russia was like, "Hey, can you get me a scope and some magazines?" And
It was like weapons themselves, but it was like accessories to them, and it's
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on here? And I think it was gun sights actually,
Yeah, it was
and among other things. So,
we got about 9 minutes left.
all right. Hey guys, looking for an ECU upgrade. I know you guys offer one of the best power jumps, but how is the drivability and daily driver aspect once making that jump? I want to maintain daily aspect. My mechanic is recommending GIAC, but everyone I talk to says 034 for the B8 S4. I mean, I don't know if you've ever listened to us talk about our tuning here on this podcast. I'm sure Sean could link you to plenty of times when we have. But drivability and smoothness and the power delivery is one of our top priorities in our tuning.
Yeah.
And I will guarantee you that we do it better than GF for the B8 S4.
I think this is
I don't know what I said.
I think this is
No, B8.
Oh, is it B8?
He said B8 S4.
Okay, yeah, no, we've did a far more developed file set.
I mean, you're not going to find anything on the market from any that makes more power and has the smoothness, refinement, and the technical features that we've added to the B8 S4 tune.
Yeah.
I don't know what your mechanic knows. I would say just let him continue to wrench on your car, but you should probably make the decision.
It's always tricky when you're dealing with someone who's selling another product that's going to be.
Yeah, he may be a GIAC dealer and he makes money on that.
That's my guess based on what he said.
But yeah, I don't think there are some competing tunes. IE's is probably our top competitor. APR is long gone.
I'd say GX is about the same as APR these days. They haven't developed anything on that.
They haven't done anything new for that in years. IE is actively developing their tuning, and so there's a healthy rivalry and back and forth between us and them. But GX not even in it, so I don't even know what they're doing. GX doing. You don't hear much about them anymore.
They've always been pretty quiet. Yeah.
Or they have a B9.
Yeah, they have a B9 tuner.
Yeah, and I'm not bad. I mean, I used to know Garrett.
Yeah.
And
it's
the
again,
founder
it's
of
just
GIAC.
we're just stating the current market.
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to go out there and find a lot of enthusiasm for the B8 S4 too. I know they do. Right. They're doing R8 tuning and Lamborghini tuning, Porsche tuning. I mean, I can't speak to any of that. If you're interested in 992 tune, you're going to have to go out and do your own research. I have an opinion on that. But B8 S4 specifically, welcome to the Terror Dome. So, do you guys plan on making a high pressure fuel pump for the B8.5 S4 S5?
Yep.
Yes, we are working on that.
That's kind of one of those.
This is one of the supply chain disruptions. That product's been affected, but
trust us, we know about the issues on another product on the market currently. We're working on it as quick as we can.
Yeah. Also, the ported blower one we already did. 4.0T engine mounts. Will they be density line or motorsport? How about both? We are doing both.
Yep.
So density mounts are in production. They've taken forever. We're sorry, but in our testing, we found some issues. Thankfully, that's what we do testing, and we resolved that. And so the product is in manufacturing. I'm not going to get anyone's hopes up, but they're coming.
Especially in today's market.
And then we are doing a motorsport version as well, which if you want to know what it's going to look like, it's going to be pretty similar to our B8 S4
very
motorsport.
Similar.
And those actually might come out sooner simply due to the nature of we can machine billet aluminum much more quickly and easily ourselves. But when we're doing casting and rubber vulcanization, we're relying on an OEM supplier, and it takes a lot longer. So, 8YS3 on track impressions. I saw you guys were on the news. Yes, we were.
Yeah,
If you haven't seen that, some news station was at the last track day. And
they walked up. Was it Gary?
Gary,
Sean, and I were chatting. And she's like, "Hey, you guys doing? You want to talk?" And we're like, "Yep, Gary does." And we just pushed him in front of the camera and walked away.
It was great because Gary got to speak very accurately and clearly about what we do at the track, and now the rest of the world can see that we don't just like make this stuff up.
Yep.
We are actually at the track.
Yeah, that was 2 days ago.
The news fact checked.
The
The news saw us doing it. We weren't just jerking off there at the track. So, but I don't know. I don't know what the impression was. I haven't heard. I unfortunately wasn't there.
It was okay. It's got some of the nannies we're gonna work around. Some of the can't turn traction control completely off, that kind of stuff. We went presets would randomly turn on, like as you're closing in on a car in front of you, it just turns itself back on. Even if you've turned it off already.
Yeah, that's always great. When you're in the corkscrew and the car just shuts off and turns back on. That's totally where I do it.
I reached over and I was holding the traction button as we were going down to turn it back off.
Yeah. It just shuts.
The GTI did that once to me yesterday too. It went into full like, oh my god, you're gonna spin. Yeah. And I turned into 6. And
I went into the corkscrew in the RS5 pretty sideways, and the car just shut off. Just like, I need power now. I'm gonna die.
So the car was we hadn't really we haven't touched anything software wise, coding wise, or anything. We just want to take it out. And that's why we're out there, see what it does with some simple mods on it, and get a feel for it.
Okay, let's hit this one. What's the difference between single pass and dual pass configuration on your 0 through 4 heat exchangers? You have a B8 S4 and C would be single pass. Yep. Yes, this is simply to accommodate various configurations on where the hoses come in and out. There's really no performance impact. The heat gets transferred whether it doubles back or goes straight through. This is completely a configuration issue. Let's see. Has the limit of the B8.5 S4 been reached, or are there further developments from yourselves? There are further developments.
Yep, there's more coming.
The motors seem to be holding up, and thanks to the supercharger power curve, there's not a lot of opportunity to exceed the engine's rod's torque limit at lower RPM, where the torque peak is. So we can keep piling on more and more horsepower up top where torque's dropping off naturally.
Yeah, and I mean today, every failure we've ever seen or heard of has been linked back to a maintenance item or a component failure, like a pump or an injector or something of that nature, or intercooler bricks or catalysts. But the crank, the motor itself seems to be pretty solid.
Yeah. Let's hit long. A few weeks ago, someone on stage 1 with a B9 mentioned oil temps topping out around 180 F. I've noticed the same since flashing to stage 1 of a B9. Any thoughts? Yes, we're taking a look at oil temp management and those tunes, and we may make some changes in the 2.1 revision. Stay tuned, but you have nothing to worry about, or there's no issue or concern. But we may continue to optimize it if we see the needs. I don't want to make any. I mean, there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than I'm telling you, but I don't want to set any expectations because we haven't decided exactly which route we're going to go. But feel free to drive the car and enjoy it, and
there'll be more updates.
There may be more. So, thanks for joining us once again. We should be able to see you guys next week. So, cheers and Happy New Year.
Yeah.